Welcome to Midnight Story. Take a slow breath in. And let it out gently. There is a moment in American history when the entire nation seemed to hold its breath. A moment when time slowed. When grief moved not in shouts or cries, but in quiet footsteps, and the steady rhythm of iron wheels on steel rails. Tonight, we travel back to that moment. Not to uncover fear, but to drift gently through memory, mystery, and the soft echoes of a country in mourning. This is the story of the ghost train of Abraham Lincoln's funeral. It begins in April of 1865. The Civil War had finally ended. The nation was exhausted, cities were scarred, families were broken, and just as Americans dared to imagine peace, Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, shot at Ford's Theater. Gone by morning, news traveled slowly then, but grief moved fast. Church bells rang without pause. Black cloth hung from windows. Men removed their hats in silence. Women wept quietly behind closed doors. And soon, a decision was made. The president would return home one last time. Not quickly, not in secret, but slowly. Across the country he had fought to hold together. Lincoln's funeral train would travel more than 1,600 miles. From Washington, D.C., through Maryland, Pennsylvania, New York, Ohio, Indiana, and finally, to Springfield, Illinois. The same route he had taken 4 years earlier, when he traveled east as a living man, full of hope and uncertainty, to be sworn in as president. Now, he returned in silence. The train itself was draped in black, its windows darkened, its engine polished but somber. Inside rested a simple coffin. American flags folded with care. Fresh flowers placed daily, even as they wilted. Soldiers stood guard at every stop. Veterans of battles that Lincoln would never see the end of. As the train passed through towns and cities, people gathered by the thousands. Some stood all night, some knelt in prayer, some simply watched, unable to look away. Children were lifted onto shoulders. Old men leaned on canes. Women clutched letters, photographs, memories. No speeches were needed. The sound of the train was enough. The wheels turned slowly, steady, unchanging. Clack, 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 like a heartbeat, a nation's heartbeat. And then, something strange began to happen. Years passed, decades. The Civil War faded into textbooks and monuments. New presidents came and went. Railroads expanded, cities grew. But along the old funeral route, people began to whisper. It started quietly. A railroad worker in New York, working late near the tracks, claimed he heard a train approaching. But none were scheduled. He described a low, distant rumble. Not loud, not fast, slow, heavy, as if carrying something precious. When he looked up, he saw a train unlike any other. Black draped cars, soft lantern light glowing inside. No smoke, no steam, and then, it vanished. At first, the story was dismissed. A trick of the eyes. Fatigue. Memory playing games. But then others began to see it too. Farmers near rural tracks in Ohio. Night watchmen in Pennsylvania. Soldiers stationed near old rail crossings. Always at night. Always silent. Always moving slowly. And always, along the same historic route. Some witnesses reported something even stranger. As the train passed, nearby church bells would begin to ring. No hands on the ropes. No wind strong enough to move them. Just bells, calling out into the dark. Others said clocks would stop. Exactly at the moment the train appeared. Time itself, holding still. One account tells of a group of veterans, gathered near a small town station decades after the war. They had been sharing stories, laughing softly, when suddenly, the air changed. The laughter faded. Conversation stopped. They stood, without speaking, and removed their hats. Why? They said later they didn't know. They just felt compelled. Moments later, the ghostly train passed. Slow, silent, and then, gone. Perhaps the most haunting stories came from children. Children who had never learned the history. Children who had no reason to imagine such things. They described a sad train. A sleeping train. A train carrying a man everyone loved. When asked how they knew, they couldn't explain. They just knew. Skeptics offered explanations. Fog, echoes, shared legends passed down through generations. But some details were too precise. Witnesses described the exact number of cars. The black bunting. The soft glow of oil lamps. Not electric light. Things no modern train used. Things only one train ever carried. So why would it return? Some believed the nation's grief had never fully settled. That Lincoln, who carried the weight of war, still carried the weight of remembrance. Others believed the train appeared only during moments of national sorrow. Wars, assassinations, times when America felt divided once more. As if reminding the country of unity, of sacrifice, of quiet dignity. There is a story from the early 20th century of a lone man waiting by the tracks in Illinois late one night. He had lost his son in war. His heart heavy, his thoughts distant. He said he felt a presence behind him. Not frightening, not cold, comforting. Then the train appeared. As it passed, he said the weight in his chest lifted. Just a little. Enough to breathe again. Enough to go on. The last widely reported sighting came decades ago. A railroad crew claimed their signals activated without reason. Lights flashed. Gates lowered. But no modern train came. Instead, they saw it. One final time. Slow. Black. Glowing softly. Moving west. Toward home. Today, the tracks still exist. Rusting in places. Replaced in others. Trains still run. Faster. Louder. But sometimes, on quiet nights, when the air is still, and the country feels uncertain, people say they hear it. Not loudly. Just enough to remember. Perhaps the ghost train is not a ghost at all. Perhaps it is memory. Grief. History refusing to fade completely. A reminder that leadership can be gentle. That strength can be quiet. That even in darkness, a light can move steadily forward. As you rest now, let the sound of distant wheels fade. Let the lantern light dim. The train continues on its journey. Peaceful, unchanging, and you may rest. Breathe in slowly, and breathe out. History drifts back into silence. And sleep comes softly. The rails beneath the ghost train are old now. Older than most memories. Older than the hands that once laid them down. Iron softened by time. Wooden ties darkened by rain and seasons. Yet the train remembers the way. It always does. In the years after the last reported sighting, rail workers began sharing quieter stories. Not sightings exactly. Not something the eyes could prove. But feelings. A sudden stillness near certain crossings. A hush that seemed to press gently against the ears. Men who had worked trains their entire lives would slow their steps without knowing why. Would lower their voices, as if entering a place of respect. One conductor wrote in his personal journal, never published, never meant to be read, that sometimes, late at night, he felt as though his train was following another. A presence ahead on the tracks. Not visible, but guiding, keeping the pace slow, measured, almost deliberate. History has a way of leaving marks. Not always in stone or ink. Sometimes in sound. Sometimes in silence. Abraham Lincoln understood silence. He understood pauses in speech. Moments where words were unnecessary. Perhaps that is why his final journey was not marked by cheers, but by quiet, miles and miles of it. During the original funeral journey, people lined the tracks holding candles, thousands of small lights, flickering, fragile. Together, they formed something stronger. Unity. Some say that when the ghost train appears, its lantern glow mirrors those candles. Not bright, not blinding, just enough light to remind the darkness. It does not last forever. There is a legend passed down among old families. Along the route, they say if the train ever stops, truly stops, then the nation has forgotten something important. Not a date, not a name, but a promise, that all men are created equal. That freedom requires care. That unity is not loud, but patient. Some nights, when storms roll across the Midwest, thunder echoes like distant engines. And in those moments, people feel watched over, not judged, not warned, watched over, as if someone long gone still believes in what could be. Lincoln once said that the world would little note, nor long remember what we say here, but it would never forget what they did here. Perhaps he underestimated memory, or perhaps he understood it perfectly. Memory does not shout, it does not demand, it moves slowly, along familiar paths. At night, when the world is quiet enough to listen, if you were to stand near those tracks tonight, you might not see anything. Most people don't, but you might feel it. A calm, a gravity, a sense that something important passed this way, and never truly left. The ghost train does not appear for everyone. It does not seek attention. It comes only when needed. When remembrance fades. When division grows loud. When the country forgets how to breathe together. And then, softly, the wheels turn again. Clack, clack, clack. Not rushing, never rushing, always moving forward. Now let that sound grow distant. Let it fade into the night air. The lanterns dim, the rails cool. The journey continues, somewhere beyond sight. And you are safe to rest. If you are new my channel, please subscribe and press bell icon. Take one slow breath in. And let it go. History settles back into sleep. And so can you.